And now, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Johnny Torres filling in for Brandon Rhymes. How you doing? Thank you so much for listening, watching this show whenever, wherever you may be doing so. Again, big shout out to our friends here at Salem Radio Network and 860 The Answer for carrying this show weekday afternoons. And again, if you miss any part of the show, there are plenty of places for you to catch up. You can join us on Facebook and YouTube. We have every episode on there. You can like, subscribe, follow, ring the bell on YouTube for us if you don't mind. That way you don't miss a single episode of the Consumer Quarterback Show. And then you can also catch us on your smart TV. A lot of people don't realize that you can also catch this show when you get home on your Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, or Amazon Prime as well. And so search for Brandon Rhymes and the Consumer Quarterback Show on any of those podcast platforms. Now, if you happen to have a long or a frequent commute, you can also subscribe to the audio version of our show at your favorite podcast platform as well, whether it be Spotify, Google, or Apple iTunes podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, like, and leave us a review there as well as we continue to grow our audience and continue to help consumers like you throughout the Tampa Bay area. If for those of you who haven't caught the Consumer Quarterback Show before, again, we are a team of small and medium businesses throughout the Tampa Bay area looking to educate you, the consumer, to help you make more informed decisions as to how to make the most out of your real estate and make the most out of your investments and live just a more productive life in general. We are powered by Brandon Rhymes' Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams. You can check out the real estate commercial listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com. We have always amazing listings on there for you to take a look at, especially in this hot market, whether it be commercial or residential real estate listings. We're going to kick off today's show looking at 700 North Osceola Avenue. 700 North Osceola Avenue is just amazing condominium in Clearwater. Has incredible views of the Intercoastal and the beaches. It's just under 1,600 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. Now, these aren't your normal bedrooms. These are 2 king-size master suites. There's a bonus room as well. Waterfront to the Intercoastal, marble flooring, granite countertops. The amenities in this condominium community has everything: a saltwater pool, gym, even a private boat dock. And the best part is it's walking distance to downtown Clearwater, one of the world's most popular and most beautiful beaches. So check out 700 North Osceola Avenue, number 405 in Clearwater at platinummvpteam.kw.com. And another listing we have is 141 Highland Avenue. 141 Highland Avenue is in Dunedin. If you're looking for more of a single family home living, or maybe possibly looking to downsize, it's 1,000 square feet. This beautiful home is maybe small, but it's gorgeous inside. It's been renovated, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. It's near downtown Dunedin, which has also got just an amazing nightlife, restaurants, you name it. They're also close to the TD Ballpark and the Blue Jays Stadium if you like some spring baseball going on. They've hardwood floors, new appliances all throughout, new roof and gutters. So again, talk about longevity of your investment. This is a home that's not going anywhere. And if you haven't seen these pictures, the backyard alone is just absolutely gorgeous with this huge oak tree in the back. Check it out, 141 Highland Avenue in Dunedin. And again, you can find that and a lot more at platinummvpteam.kw.com. That's platinummvpteam.kw.com. Now, again, this show is made possible not only by the folks that you hear on the show, but even some of the small and medium businesses that support the show through their services. And an amazing business that we're proud to have as part of this show is Brandon Porter in Veteran Gutters. Now, Brandon himself is a veteran. He hires veterans, pays it back to the community, not only after having served his country, but also by giving veterans, an opportunity as they leave the military life life, into the workforce, and they do incredible work that you can rely on with these gutters. Again, it's veterangutters.com. Make sure to tell Brandon Porter that Brandon Rhymes and the Consumer Quarterback Show sent you. All right, coming up, we got Millie Athanason from the law offices of Millicent Athanason and Frank Charles Miranda from Frank Charles Miranda Law. So a lot of legal advice going on today, a lot to cover, but we do have this feel-good story that is absolutely amazing. You're going to want to catch it. A cancer trial's unexpected result. Remission in every patient. We may have found the cure to cancer, folks, and I'm not overselling that. So stick around. We'll give you more details on that later on in today's show. But let's go ahead and bring on Millie Athanason. Again, principal attorney at law offices of Millicent Athanason at ATHHANASONlaw.com. That's ATHHANASONlaw.com. Hey, Millie.
How are you today?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, you bring us, the type of topics that you're not going to find in the newspaper. You're not going to see it on TV, but this impacts more people than, you could truly realize. So we appreciate you keeping us up to speed on these incredibly important issues. One of them being Supreme Court ruling, again, taking a look at being able to, now correct me if I'm wrong, tap into Medicaid funds for personal personal injury reimbursements.
Yeah. So usually in a personal injury case, at the conclusion of the case, when we make a settlement or we obtain a judgment, either or, what we have to do is go through and pay any outstanding medical bills that is associated with the care that the patient has received from, the result of their automobile accident.
Right.
Well, normally we don't, and with the government, with Medicare or Medicaid, we do have a duty to reimburse them. That's called a right of subrogation. If a third party's at fault, we have to reimburse them for the expenses that they paid on behalf of the client that has been attributable to the automobile accident. Well, what happens is typically when we settle a case, we're only paying back to Medicare the amount that was already spent on the bill. So if Medicare paid, let's say, $10,000 worth of medical bills because the client didn't have any insurance, let's just say it was a motorcycle accident, they didn't have any insurance. So what will happen is then we have a duty to reimburse Medicare for the $10,000 they paid. Well, that's normal, but what the Supreme Court just came back and did is they're saying that not only can they get reimbursed that $10,000 that they've already paid for treatment already rendered, but they can take out money for future care.
Wow.
As needed. So what happened was, this was a case that actually stemmed in Florida. A little girl stepped off of a school bus and got hit by a truck. And she's now in a vegetative state. So Medicare, it's very sad. Medicare had already spent $800,000 on medical expenses for this child. And so at the conclusion of the case, obviously the attorney that was representing the family said, okay, we need to reimburse Medicare the $800,000. Well, Medicare didn't want just $800,000. They wanted more because they said, this little girl is going to be needing care for the rest of her life because she's in a constant vegetative state. So it was appealed, and it was taken all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, and they came back in an opinion and said, yes, this is what we want. And it was a 5-2 split. So, it's now law. Now we have to deal with future medical expenses. So I'm sure that we're all, as lawyers, going to have to be very careful how we word what is allotted to what in a settlement when we settle cases, so that, because the government's going to want to take out more than what they've already spent.
Yeah, in fact, my girlfriend was in a car accident recently, and that's one of the things I learned in her process, even though I'd been in an accident that put me in the hospital even just a couple of years earlier. But it is how there are very specific pots of money that go to pay for very specific things. And so I think a lot of people, again, don't have that understanding. They think that, it's all lump sums of money, and then all these things kind of get paid off, and then the money eventually, runs out, and, maybe there's something left after the fact. But like you said, especially in this little girl's case, and even in my girlfriend's case, unfortunately, there is ongoing treatment that needs to be had, due to back injuries or whatever it may be. And also that, like you said, I guess even more so now, your attorney, if it's one of the reasons why you want to bring on an attorney if you happen to be in a car accident of some kind, because this all has to be handled very specifically, and you certainly can't trust the insurance companies to be looking out for your best interest.
Oh, no. And you want an attorney that understands these subrogation rules and works with the various medical creditors, because it affects your bottom line, because obviously what we pay out in medical bills comes out of the client's portion of the settlement. So the more I spend on medical bills, the less I'm able to give my client, right? So obviously one of my main jobs is to try to reduce those medical expenditures to as little as possible to maximize what my client can put in their pocket.
And has there been any progress? I know that's been a major sticking point, both in Congress and I think even here in the state legislature, in terms of the pricing of a lot of these medical services that are provided, and how there's no consistent pricing, and and billing estimates are all over the place. I mean, is that still a major problem?
It is still a major problem. The biggest problem that the insurance carriers have nowadays is what they say, or what they try to argue with us, is that, let's say somebody goes to the chiropractor. Well, what they're arguing is that they don't want to pay the full amount of the chiropractor's bill, because the chiropractor will charge you one price if you're an automobile accident patient, and another price if you're just a cash patient walking in the door.
Sure.
So we've had to counsel, obviously, a lot of the physicians that we work with to not have a price differential, because it's only opening Pandora's box for further litigation.
Wow.
And so a lot of doctors have become better about that, and that's why it's important of what kind of doctors you work with. Is we want to make sure that we're working with really good doctors, that if we have to take this case to a jury, that it's somebody that a jury's going to appreciate and respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you said there's a 5-2 ruling coming down on this. Is this now kind of pretty much set in stone moving forward, or what are the next kind of steps to look for in this process for this particular issue?
Well, since it's SCOTUS, it's kind of the last straw. So this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen is I think there's going to be more litigation, because I can see like health insurance companies trying to bring suit saying, well, wait a minute, you paid us back for the bills, for that we paid for this patient, but this patient, has degenerative spine disease, so we want money for the future medical bills.
Sure.
Because she's going to have treatment for her spine. So I do see more litigation coming down the pike as a result of this ruling. And that's something that often happens, is that, just because a court makes a ruling and you think it's the last step, well, yes and no, it may be the last step for that particular issue, but then a lot of other people that are affected may follow through to try to bring their issue to light as a result.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, again, these insurers, and I'm sure these hospital systems, I mean, they kind of just look at the government as just a printing press, and they figure if they sue enough, they're going to get the money they're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, obviously Medicare is funded by the government. So, I mean, I think there was a vested interest by the Supreme Court to ensure that that the government wasn't losing more money on that.
Yep.
However, as I said, it could trickle down to private insurers. I'm sure they're going to try to sue and make an argument as well. So I do foresee more litigation on that. And I think that lawyers are going to become very crafty in how they draft their settlement proposals, as designating what part of the settlement is for what purpose.
All right. Well, we're talking to Millie Athanason, law offices of Millicent Athanason at ATHHANASONlaw.com. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Florida Legislature doing a bit of alimony reform. We're taking a look at it anyways. So she's going to bring us up to speed on that. We also got our feel-good story about a cancer trial's unexpected result, remissions for all patients. So that's exciting news. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up. More with Millie right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, ConsumerQB.com, powered by the Platinum MVP team at PlatinumMVPteam.kw.com.
This is Chris Voss, former FBI lead hostage negotiator and owner of the Black Swan Group, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at ConsumerQB.com.
Ian Beckles here with my man Brandon Rhymes, a.k.a. the real estate quarterback. Brandon, what's happening with the market?
Thanks, Ian. Any of our listeners out there, we'll offer you a 2% listing for the first 3 callers that reach out to the hotline, 813-917-1894. Call or text the hotline, 813-917-1894. Also, a great opportunity for folks out there looking for a part-time gig, maybe a side hustle, is Keller Williams Real Estate School, powered by Kaplan. Reach out if you'd like more information on how we have a free real estate school for you, online class, get licensed, and start referring business in, or maybe make a new career. 813-917-1894, ConsumerQB.com for our syndicated radio and TV show on 80 outlets worldwide, ConsumerQB.com, or our real estate website at PlatinumMVPteam.kw.com. That's PlatinumMVPteam.kw.com. And please follow us online at Brandon Rhymes 1 on Instagram, Twitter, Getter, and check out our YouTube channel, Brandon Rhymes Realty. Make it a great day. Hey, Brandon Rhymes here for Cleaning Commandos here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Cleaning Commandos are hiring, and they're offering competitive wages, flexible hours, relaxed atmosphere, and a sign-on bonus. Reach out if you'd like a career with the Cleaning Commandos here in Tampa Bay. Info at cleaningcommandosllc.com or call 813-750-0550, 813-750-0550. Cleaning Commandos, Consumer Quarterback Show. Have you desired more income and more freedom in your life? Now is your time. Keller Williams Realty has just launched our own real estate school, and you can get licensed for free. I'm Brandon Rhymes, host of the Consumer Quarterback Show, owner of the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. And for the first 3 people who reach out, I will personally coach you. 813-917-1894. Call or text 813-917-1894. ConsumerQB.com. ConsumerQB.com.
You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at ConsumerQB.com.
And don't forget, if you want to follow up with Brandon on any of the guests or content or listings that you've heard on today's show, you can reach out to him directly at 813-917-1894. That's 813-917-1894, or visit ConsumerQB.com. Again, one of the sponsors of this show and, that have personally made an impact for Brandon has been Golf Cart Depot or Discovery Golf Cars. Brandon has this beautiful red golf cart that honestly, I think if they could, the dogs would probably drive it around more than Brandon does. They absolutely love this thing. They ride around the neighborhood in it. You've seen the golf carts just exploding everywhere. It used to be a thing you'd see in maybe only down in Sun City Center, Apollo Beach, but now you see them absolutely everywhere, and especially with gas prices. I mean, who wants to be driving around with these gas prices when you can get a golf cart and get around to run some errands, visit neighbors, and or just go hang out around town. So check out Discovery Golf Cars at discoverygolfcars.com. They got a couple locations throughout Tampa Bay, and they are ready to serve you. They also got a variety of golf carts. They've got off-roading type and street legal type, and so definitely do your homework. Check out discoverygolfcars.com and tell them the Consumer Quarterback sent you. We also have got amazing listings with the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams, and one of those is 3045 South 78th Street. That's 3045 South 78th Street in Tampa. This is really close to Ybor City, the port, and just minutes from downtown. Also, of course, to Florida Aquarium. And so you want to check this one out. It's almost 2,000 square feet, just under 1,900 square feet, actually. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's got a couple bonus rooms. It's got an enormous patio and an even bigger backyard. This is a great property that you can truly grow into. And certainly a selling point, a mother-in-law suite, which is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. So there's additional income opportunity there. Check out 3045 South 78th Street in Tampa at platinummvpteam.kw.com. All right, Millie Athanason joining us on the phone from the law offices of Millicent Athanason at ATHHANASONlaw.com. Again, always bringing us some great news and developments in the legal world. And one of these is the state legislature looking at alimony reform. And, it's one of these things that I think people tend to forget about, and just kind of live with life the way it is. And it's something that, at least in my opinion, was severely overdue for a look at some reform. Would you agree, Millie?
Oh, yes. It's been up on the floor, up in the legislature every year for at least the past 7 or 8 years, debating back and forth how to reform alimony. But what's happened is there's a bill that passed the House, but at this point the governor is got to sign it, and there's calls for vetoes and so forth. But it would be very significant change, not only to alimony, but as far as child custody issues are. Right now, there's a goal with regard to custody and time sharing that the non-residential parent would have, as much time as possible with the minor child or children. Under this new law, it would create a presumption in the statute for equal time sharing. So in other words, what that would mean is that you're starting out at 50-50, and if you want something other than 50-50, you better have some good reasons for it. Right now, the way that it is, there's no presumption. There's a hope for that, but not a presumption. The court still has about 20 factors that it has to analyze in making a determination as to how much time the children are going to spend with each parent. So it would significantly change the way that we are counseling our clients with regard to custody issues.
Well, I'm seeing a trend even among, some of the folks that I know, unfortunately going through some of these things, that you're seeing the dynamic kind of shift a little bit in terms of who wants primary custody, or even equal time. You're seeing dads certainly, I think, step up more to the plate, among kind of younger dads or the newer generations. Are you seeing anything like that? Are you seeing some societal changes there trend wise?
Yes, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's usually how laws change, because of societal changes. It demands it. And so what you're seeing now, traditionally when a lot of these laws were originally promulgated, there was, was a situation where mom stayed at home. That show Leave It to Beaver, where June Cleaver's vacuuming in her dress and pearls and keeping house. Yeah, those days are kind of gone.
I'd say so.
That nobody's cleaning the house and nobody's cleaning with their pearls on.
Yeah.
So, the reality is now women have sophisticated jobs the same way that men do, which was a trend that, let's say, back in the 60s and 70s and prior to that, you didn't see. It was more of a traditional, the woman stays at home and the man goes to work. So, yes, because of that career dynamic, there's also been a shift in parenting responsibilities.
Yeah.
So it's not atypical for us to find men, staying home with children.
All right. Well, if you have a parenting agreement, you have some divorce settlements out there that you want to maybe get a fresh eyes on, check out Millie Athanason, law offices of Millicent Athanason, ATHANASONlaw.com, and give us that phone number, Millie.
It would be 1-833-ASK-MILLY, MILLY.
All right, more of the Consumer Quarterback Show coming up.
Hey, this is Grant Cardone, and you've been listening to the phenomenal Brandon Rhymes, the Consumer Quarterback Show.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, Frank, you want to give me a countdown for 5?
I'm plugged in. Yes, I am over here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, he was just talking to me.
I can't hear him.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, can you give me a countdown from 5, Frank?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, all good. Yeah, I'm good. All right, Johnny, you ready down there? All set? All right, here we go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
And we're powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams. You can check us out online at platinummvpteam.kw.com. I'm Johnny Torres, filling in for Brandon Rhymes. Thanks to Brandon for letting me fill in on today's show. Again, a very legally heavy show, as we had Millicent Athanason on talking about a lot of family law issues and some developments happening not only in the federal legislature but also in the state legislature. And joining us now, Frank Charles Miranda from Frank Charles Miranda Law, FCMlaw.com. How you doing?
John, I'm doing fantastic. How you been?
Doing awesome. You know, it's fun to be here in the pilot seat.
I agree. And you do a great job behind the scenes, but in front of the scenes, you got a voice for radio.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, it was the one thing I knew from I think I was a junior in high school, and that was kind of the that was the way I wanted to go.
You had a calling.
Yeah, I did the radio thing on the music side for about 6 years, and decided I was like, that was fun, and wasn't making enough money, so I went into do other things, marketing and advertising, all that stuff. But this is in the blood.
So you were a DJ?
Yeah. I worked here locally here in Tampa at FLZ, and bounced around Florida, Orlando, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and then got as far north as Huntsville, Alabama.
Did you have like a stage name?
A few, but none that I ever really cared for. I went by like J.J. Walker and John, and none that ever really kind of stuck,
So J.J. Walker, is that like a reference back to the TV show?
That was an homage to a guy that I used to listen to. It was the radio guy that I listened to in Miami that I always loved listening to, and he was one of the inspirations behind wanting to be a radio DJ. And funny enough, I ended up meeting him because he was working here in Tampa at the time when I was just getting started. And he was going by the name Spider Harrison here in Tampa, who was on FLZ at the time. Now he goes by Spider Harrison and JJ Walker on Sirius XM satellite radio.
Do you get to pick your stage name?
Sometimes it just kind of depends, if you kind of walked into a show, as an intern or something, sometimes they'd pick it for you. A buddy of mine, went by Special Ed. I doubt he picked that one for himself. And then other times you kind of, your boss maybe picked it out for you, or you may have hit on something that you liked and, kind of picked it for yourself. So, there's no kind of set formula of that. And I just could never really hit on one that I liked.
Yeah. Next time you do that, you need a nickname. I think we should either go with like a survey of the listeners.
There we go.
Or you and I need to sit down and have a cocktail.
Yeah. Well, I filled in at a country station for a couple of weeks, and I went by Johnny Walker.
I like that.
That's
creative.
It's easy to remember, and I think it fit the format. So.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh man, but always fun having you on, and you've always got some really interesting cases going on. We were just talking about alimony and how there may be some changes coming down through the Florida Legislature in regards to alimony. You were telling us offline. You don't typically do a lot of divorce case type stuff, but you recently had one that was a bit interesting because of some paperwork that was involved.
Yeah, so what we're talking about before we got started was the case I got brought in on was a divorce case. I got brought in because of my real estate knowledge, and there was an issue when the two people were married of them signing a deed, and they signed a deed for purposes of getting a loan from somebody, a family member. And
not uncommon, I'm guessing, right?
No, it happens all the time. I mean, you're allowed to lend money to your cousin, uncle, whoever you want to, and in exchange, you're allowed to get a mortgage on the property, or you're entitled to get some sort of ownership in the property if they elect to do that.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, they elected to do that. The couple elected to do that, and they gave what's called a future interest in the property to the person who lent the money. And a couple months later, when that went down and they got the money, they paid off the existing mortgage, so they had no mortgage payment. A couple months later, when one spouse decides to divorce another spouse, they don't want to pay back the money. And so they claimed the deed they signed was a void deed because it didn't have two witnesses in it.
Right, which that's standard, right? Having to have the two signatures on a legal document. I mean, that's
yeah. On a deed, you need two witnesses.
Yeah.
The notary notarizes. The notary can actually act as one of the witnesses.
Now, in this case, I think you were saying the notary did or did not sign the document.
Notary did sign the document as a notary, did not sign the document as a witness.
Okay.
So there was a witness blank on there. Now, what we typically do in real estate transactions is, people refer to a transfer title, whether it's a sale or a refinance. That closing is title work. We fix that all the time. There's errors all the time in the history of properties that are being sold, refinanced, whatever the case may be. We fix that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So, 99% of the time there's an answer, or 100% of the time there's an answer to the situation. And so you fix the deed, and we fix the deed pursuant to what the law said. And you just simply go back, ask the owner, did you see him witness? Obviously you did because you notarized it. All you got to do is sign the document up here where you missed it, sign an affidavit explaining what you did, record it, and it's over with. So it's interesting how people change facts to fit their benefit.
And finding loopholes, right? I mean, they'll look for loopholes in places, you wouldn't imagine.
Yeah, and listen, the case got resolved pretty quickly in the litigation. But the end result is it's unfortunate that people who relied upon a promise, they lent money based on a promise of certain things happening, which is another legal theory to prevail on in that circumstance, that they don't get the benefit of the deal, and they're the one that took the risk, right? They're the one that paid off a mortgage, significant amount of money, and in exchange for that, they were given a promise. The other person said, I don't like the deal anymore. It doesn't benefit me because I want to get a divorce. I really don't care if I pay you back anymore. I want all of the house,
right,
or one half of the house value. And that was pretty intently litigated for the small portion of time that the case was going on. It was probably very good that there was a quick mediation set that lasted all day long, and it was resolved. If it wasn't resolved, it would have been set for trial immediately and gone to a court and a judge. And, contrary to maybe popular belief, judges make mistakes too. And there's been a lot of judges recently have been appointed and not elected to office. And most of the time when judges do get up for re-election, it's one of the races that I would say the community pays the least amount of attention to, because hopefully no one's getting sued. Hopefully no one gets arrested.
It's one of the hardest to research as well. When you're trying to do your homework on candidates, notoriously the hardest one to find information on is the judges.
That's a great point. And why is, one, they're probably less funded in their campaigns than the other races, so they can't give themselves much publicity. The Florida bar rules are so stringent that they are limited on what they can say about their opposing candidate. They got to show the utmost professionalism.
Their campaign marketing materials say very little.
Right. They can't say the person I'm running against is an idiot. and sometimes the person they're running against or running for office is an idiot. And if you look through, and I say that, almost tongue-in-cheek, but not. If you look through their history, some people who have run for judge, even some that have run recently, have won elections that don't have practical experience, that haven't been in the courtroom ever, that don't know the rules of evidence, that in theory, they may look good on paper because they went to a prestigious school, but in practicality, they didn't have much of a courtroom experience.
Right. And that's the one I hear the most often when it comes to judicial races, is that courtroom experience. Because there are attorneys that will go years without seeing the inside of a courtroom.
I'm under the impression there are people who have run for judge who haven't literally practiced law in the last 5 to 6 years.
Wow.
And so I don't think they're qualified to become a judge.
Yeah. Now, are there actual specifics as to what qualifies you? Because obviously anyone can run for office, for any other elected office, right? But when it comes to judgeships, like you said, some are appointed and then inevitably they have to run for re-election. But are there certain metrics, guidelines, requirements that they need to meet to run for judge?
It's minimal. The only guideline is you have to be an attorney for 5 years.
Okay.
Doesn't say you have to be a practicing attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say you have to be an attorney that's done civil law. We've had a lot of judges appointed that only know criminal law, and that's only a small portion of the cases that are handled. Majority of the cases are civil-related lawsuits.
Well, and depending on what court you land in, too, depends on what kind of cases you're going to see.
Right, and the court you land in is decided by the chief judge of every circuit. So the chief judge of every circuit appoints a judge to a certain courtroom, and the topic, for instance, of which cases you're going to hear. Like you might hear juvenile cases. You might hear, depending on your county court or circuit court, criminal cases. You might hear probate cases. You might hear divorce cases and family law. So I would say with some frequency, judges are, and this isn't anyone's fault, they're put into, I should say, this isn't the chief judge's fault. Once they're elected, you got to put them somewhere.
Right.
And typically the judges that have seniority typically get preference as to what type of division they want to sit in, whether it's circuit civil, whether it's criminal, whether it's whatever the case may be.
Is there a preference? Like, is there one that most judges try to go for? Is there like a preferred?
If I had to guess, I'd probably say if you're a circuit court judge, civil side. Criminal is just a lot of recitation. You have to, every time you take a plea, you have to, read out this long litany of rights that got to be waived. So it gets pretty monotonous and very procedurally detailed.
Gotcha.
And so you're spitting out the same information over and over and
Sure.
over again. Tough job. It's a very tough job, especially when it comes to sentencing, because even though they're taking some discretion away, it's you got to find somebody with common sense to balance what's justice.
And given that, we've got these midterm elections coming up, and we've got folks that are running for judge locally here. I mean, what are some suggestions for the average voter out there that you would recommend as to how to do their homework on who they may be electing to a judgeship?
The easiest thing to do is there's two things. Go to the Florida bar, go to the website, look up that person's name. It'll tell you if they had any disciplinary proceedings. Okay? That might be a red flag. Sometimes you may get a disgruntled opponent even file a frivolous complaint against you. That's not necessarily, in my mind, a dagger that should eliminate somebody.
So you got to take it within
context. It's a red flag. It's a red right. It's like everything else. Take it in context. Number two, what I would do is, do they have a law firm? Do they work for a law firm? Are they even working? If they're not working, red flag number two.
Yeah.
And so I would be very suspicious of someone who wants to be a judge who hasn't, because they have a bar license and haven't practiced in a certain amount of time of trying to become a judge.
Well, and some of them, I would imagine, just didn't like being an attorney, and kind of see this as maybe another step, to not let their legal degree go to waste, But there's obviously people that get into the field that end up realizing that they don't like it, or after a while they just get burned out.
Yeah, I think that happens in every job.
Sure.
Right? It happens in every job. And even if you're great at it, I think there's a level of that occurs in every position. I think there's some great judges. But I think when it comes to the election of a judge, too many people ignore it, or they can't find information about it. And I don't know how they pick. I don't know if it's eeny-meeny. I don't know if it's they flip a quarter. I don't know. But there's a couple judges. There's a couple judges that. I tell you one thing. Here's the other thing. You can call someone's law office that you respect and ask them.
Yeah.
What's the word on the street?
So ask your attorney, or be it a friend or your actual attorney, and kind of get the inside scoop.
Get the inside scoop.
Yeah.
And it's nothing fancy.
Okay.
But if you go to somebody that you trust, they're going to give you good advice.
All right. Frank Charles Miranda joining us from Frank Charles Miranda Law, FCMlaw.com. We'll have more with him in just a little bit, along with our feel-good story of the day. A cancer trial's unexpected result, remission in every patient. This is a revolutionary story that's happening here, breaking this week. We'll talk more about that in the next segment. In the meantime, don't forget to check out our website, consumerqb.com, powered by the Platinum MVP team at platinummvpteam.kw.com. More with Frank coming up on the Consumer Quarterback Show.
This is Work Done, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com.
Hey, Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show, in studio with Martine Gramatica, that is, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer Super Bowl winner, Lifeguard Imaging, lifeguardimaging.com, saving lives through early detection.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. Yes, that's what we're doing at Lifeguard Imaging. You come in asymptomatic, and that's what we do. You're being proactive. You're coming in. We do a scan from the neck to the pelvis. It's a full body scan. It's a 3D image of every organ, and that's where 90% of the deadliest cancers are, in our mid region. So we can see everything. But for your listeners, we have a real good special. We have a $599 value, absolutely complimentary. They can come in for a coronary artery scan, which will give you their calcium score, 100% complimentary for your people.
Very cool. Hey, take them up on that offer, 813-917-1894. Call or text, complimentary scan, 813-917-1894, and check them out online, lifeguardimaging.com.
Dennis Prager here for Brandon and Lindsay Rhymes, owners of the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams. Buying, selling, investing in real estate, their nationwide Keller Williams network makes them the best team to work with. Sellers, have your property featured live on air, creating multiple offers. Buyers, leverage a unique system that gets your offer accepted, never overlooked. Call or text 813-750-0550, 813-750-0550, or consumerqb.com.
You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
Joining us today to close out the show, Frank Charles Miranda from Frank Charles Miranda Law, FCMLaw.com. We were getting a little bit of a lesson there on how to pick your judges, especially with midterm elections coming up, city elections coming up. You know, there's it just seems like nowadays the elections never stop. And so one of the biggest, you know, even for someone like myself, I've been involved in politics, you know, now since about 2007. And still the judicial races are the hardest ones for me to decide on because there's so little information out there to help you make that decision.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, what's really hard too is if you're a sitting judge or even if you're running for judge, the rules that we have to abide by the Florida bar when it comes to running for a judge and what you can say are very, very narrow. So you can't come out and bash your opponent. You can only talk about very generic things. Even with which you can't even talk about what you truly believe in because you might have a case come before you, and then you'll be accused of not being non-biased.
Which is why you don't see a lot of judges do interviews, you know, on talk radio or you know, television and that sort of thing, you know, as candidates, because even, you know, their opinion on certain matters could be used against them down the road if they get elected.
Right. And so how that would happen is if someone heard an interview where a judge gave an opinion that which would be contrary to your position in a case, they would file a motion to try to recuse that judge from hearing that case. Mm-hmm. That probably has some merit, and the judge would recuse himself, and then they'd have to go to another judge to deal with. Wow. So judges doesn't want that happening because all these cases are going to be going from one judge to another, and that gets out of control.
Yeah. Now, you know, hopefully, you know, I don't know, maybe it's not an easy and quick answer, but, you know, like I was telling you off air, my dad had an incident at a state hospital where, you know, a door closed on him, shoving him to the floor. He had a walker, so I'm sure he fell on the walker, broke some ribs. This was right when COVID was just kind of getting started, so he ended up spending almost a month in the hospital, and now we're in the process of course, kind of pursuing this legally, you know, because the whole reason he ended up in the hospital is because of this door that ended up shoving him to the ground. And so we're at that point now where the hospital says, well, we're not just going to settle this. They've offered or asked to go into mediation. And so the big question is, do you go into mediation or do you go into a lawsuit? Because most people, I would imagine, don't even realize that if it's a state hospital, like in this situation, you're also capped off as to how much you're going to get in that kind of a situation.
There's a lot in that one statement you just said. Okay, so the fact that it's a governmental entity that may have caused the incident, they're capped, at $200,000 maximum. There's a way around it. You can actually go to the Florida Legislature and pass a bill to allow a governmental entity to pay more than that. That gets more detailed. Now, what typically happens in negligence cases, there's always an insurance company involved behind the scenes. They never want to pay because the less money they pay out, the more money they make. They will deny everything that had occurred. They will deny it's their fault. If they can't get around it that way, they'll deny that you're injured as a result of that accident, that whatever you had was pre-existing, and we cause no harm to you.
Yeah,
those are the staple. Whether it's a auto accident, whether it's a slip and fall, whether it's an incident where a door slammed on someone, that is always the game. That's the game plan.
Now,
right?
I want to get into our feel-good story, but just to wrap that one up, the perception is that maybe you're not going to get everything you possibly could going through mediation versus going through a suit. Do you find that to be the case, or is sometimes mediation just as effective or more effective than going through with a lawsuit?
Okay. Loaded question, because if you file a lawsuit before you go to trial, a judge is going to order you to go to mediation.
Okay.
So mediation is a process where typically the mediator is an attorney who has experience. They don't have the ability to render an opinion. What they do is they go back to between each parties. They try to tell you what's good about your case, what's bad about your case, and why you should settle. So typically the plaintiff's demand is going to be high, the defendant's offer is going to be low,
right.
And he tries to get both parties to somewhere meet closer to the middle than odds are closer to the middle.
Yeah.
With that being said, it sounds like in your father's case, there is no lawsuit that's filed yet, but there's nothing wrong. You're allowed, if the parties agree, to have a pre-suit mediation, have that process. I will tell you, if there's no resolution and a lawsuit ultimately is filed, nowadays a judge is going to order you back to mediation, do it again, to see if there's a settlement, because they want cases to settle because the state of Florida is 1 million cases behind the 8 ball because of COVID.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I appreciate you, and feel free to chime in here on this story because it's absolutely unbelievable. Here's our feel-good story of the day, where a cancer trial's unexpected result was remission in every patient. In a small study conducted at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York, all participants saw their tumors disappearing using immunotherapy without surgery, radiation, or chemotherapy. So Dr. Luis Diaz published a paper in the New England Journal of Medicine describing the results, saying he knew of no other study where a treatment completely obliterated a cancer in every patient. Sasha Roth, who was the first patient in the clinical trial involving immunotherapy at MSK, she was scheduled to undergo weeks of radiation therapy for rectal cancer until receiving the phone call from the oncologist, Andrew Sirkik at MSK. Dr. Sirkik told her, then 38, that the latest test showed no evidence of cancer after Sasha had undergone 6 months of immunotherapy treatment. The doctors told her that a team of doctors had examined the tests, and since they couldn't find any signs of cancer, there was no reason for her to endure the radiation therapy. The same result was repeated for all 12 patients and counting in the MSK clinical trial for rectal cancer. So it seems that with this particular type of cancer, they may have kind of figured out the solution here. It says, in every case, the rectal cancer disappeared after immunotherapy without the need for standard treatments of radiation, surgery, or chemotherapy, and the cancer has not returned in any of the patients who have been cancer-free now for up to 2 years. So this has been going on for quite some time. It's incredibly rewarding, says Dr. Sirkik, to get these happy tears and happy emails from patients in the study who finished the treatment and realized, oh my God, I get to keep all my normal bodily functions that I feared I might lose to radiation or surgery. I mean, this is a huge milestone.
The best thing about that came from Sloan Kettering, one of the top 3 institutions in the country when it comes to treating cancer.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully we'll continue to have more developments like this. Obviously way overdue as cancer continues to take way too many lives. Thank you so much, Frank Charles Miranda, for joining us. Your phone number?
813-254-2637.
All right, fcmlaw.com.
Yeah, and if you want to contact me, I'll tell you who to vote for judge, in my opinion.
There we go. Thank you so much for listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm Johnny Torres, filling in for Brandon Rhymes. So long, everyone. We'll see you the next time.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Call Brandon Rhymes at 813-917-1894. That's 813-917-1894. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show.